Hello, it's Nikki. Today I want to talk about money. From the outset, I want to say I'm not a financial advisor, and this is purely a conversation about making more and possibility, and also encouraging yourself to go a bit deeper. So, to give a bit of context to this, when I first started coaching in 2012, nobody was talking about money. There were like a few whispers like, oh, you could make a bit of money from this, you could bring coaching into your corporate world. Well, I wasn't a corporate person, so I kind of quickly had to figure out how I was going to do this by myself, which is another story. And at that time, people were simply talking about the coaching world was sort of like an undercover world, underground. So people were like, it's one of those like, if you know, you know. Like, have you had coaching? Have you had coaching before? Yeah, I've had. Yeah. Just right, okay. You know about limiting, but yeah. I've done some goal setting. It was very casual. Nobody was saying like, this is what I did in 1 month. Nobody was talking about their 6-figure years, 6-figure months, 6 figures while I went to the toilet, 7 figures while I did whatever. Like, nobody was talking about that. I'll come on to that in a second. But everybody was simply just talking about transformation. They were talking about transformation. They were talking a little bit about freedom and flexibility. And I'm here for all of that. Absolutely. It's not like in 2012 now, I'm like, I don't really want any freedom. No, like, I'm here for the freedom, obviously. But also, I'm here for the money conversations as well. But with with questions. I'm here for money conversations with questions, because I think sometimes money chat can be misleading, or it's not a reflection of the whole story. And again, this is not to shame anybody or call anybody out, but it's to open up the conversation that a number is not just a number on the table. So when I'm recording this on the 1st of June, and in May, I surpassed the money goal that I set. And this is how I set goals. So when I'm thinking about the money that I want to bring in to my business, it's my brand, I understand what that number consists of. So when I'm thinking about it, I might say, I want to bring in X, but I understand what that money is going to do. So in a way, I assign it. So if I say I brought in £100, yay, there were months like in the beginning where I'm like, oh my goodness, somebody paid me £100. This is great. I have made it. I'm going to use £100 for the sake of it. But there would be an understanding, if I brought that £100 in, where it would need to go. So that £100 is not just for me to think, right, I've got like 5 crisp 20s in my back pocket, I'm going to go to Westfield. That's not how I'm thinking. Like, there's a proportion that's going to go to tax. There's a proportion that goes to my expenses. There's a proportion and so the profit, the stuff that you take home, is a proportion of that. And I think this is the thing that gets a bit confusing, and that makes people feel like they can't be in the game. If somebody suddenly says they had a 6-figure year all of a sudden, that isn't 100 grand, I presume. I don't know. But this is the thing, like, nobody's saying actually what that means. That isn't necessarily 100 grand in their back pocket. Presumably, unless they're saying the profit of my business was 100 grand this year. Great, happy days. Then you've got 100 grand in your pocket, right? But if somebody's just saying, I made this, you need to question what that is. or consider it before you make your next move. So are these people who are doing that, is that turnover? Or what are their business expenses? Or sometimes when people say, I spent £1 million on coaching, brilliant, but they then said, oh, I paid off my investment. Did they put that on a credit card? And like there's all kinds of weird conversations. So as it's the 1st of June, I want you to consider how much money you want to make this month. So June has 30 days. By the end of June, how much money do you want to bring in? And I want you to really explore what that looks like in terms of, so rather than just going, I want to make, I don't want to share my goals. This is the thing. So if you say, I want to make X, I want you to know what that looks like in real terms. So at the end of the month, for example, what is that number that is still in your bank account? What is that number that has gone to your monthly expenses, for example? Where in your business do you want to invest money? And list it out. I always do this when I'm creating money goals, because otherwise it's just a random number. And also, when I'm making steps in terms of growing things, I want to, it's really, especially at times like this, it can be easy to not coast, but I know one of my limiting beliefs is, okay, so let me share this. One of my limiting beliefs is, that's enough now. That's enough now. That's enough. And sometimes when I get a big win, and I know that I'll have this a little bit this month, like the fact that I had a really great month last month, can't even say it, it will take a bit of ease, because then suddenly if I'm not careful, I'll question like, oh, can I do that again? Or was that just a fluke? Or now I've done it once, like that's enough now. And that's a limiting belief that I'm working with as well. So I have to really question where the money is going, because otherwise people will say things like, I just want to be a millionaire. People always used to say that, I just want to be a millionaire, and then everything will be fine. And the skeptic in me was always like, what do you mean a millionaire? Do you mean like £1 million in the bank? Do you mean £1 million like what do you mean? And that's what I want to say today, is not only for you to ask those questions, your markers of success in your business, but also sometimes don't take marketers on the internet at face value, because we're never seeing the full financial picture. And never at any stage of this assume that your goals are not possible. One other thing I want to share is the goal that I hit, or the goal that I created, I guess, last month was a stretch goal. So I had on paper one number that I wanted to work towards, but I actually surpassed it and went bigger. So when you're thinking about this, don't forget to stretch yourself, and don't just assume like, oh, it will be fine. Like, oh, if I can just do, so many of my clients will come to me and say, I just want to make nursery bills. And I go, it's just not very exciting. Like, it's not going great, but you're capable of so much more. There's so much other stuff that you could do in the world. There's so much stuff you could do for you to make yourself feel good and fulfilled and successful in whatever way that looks like. So, let's talk more about money. Let's keep these conversations open, but also let's ask further questions. Like, when you said that, what did you mean? Or how did you know that X, Y, and Z? Those open questions will really give us the detail that we need to also have the businesses that we want. And never be afraid to ask those things like, what do you mean by that? Because that's how we learn. So yeah, I look forward to hearing more. I would love to know what helps you with your money chat. I will see you in a bit.